Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
We are so back. It's kind of crazy. Welcome to Game Over Winnipeg. My name is Brendan Labarre, and the Jets beat the Boston Bruins by a score of 8-1. Look what I did. Now, when you chat in our wonderful stream, you will be on the screen. You'll be on the stream with me. I always say that you guys are a part of my show just as much as our show, just as much as me. And now look, it's real. It's you. Type away in the chat. You will be a part of it. Look at that. Go local sports team. Bring back the party band. Yeah, the Royal Air Force band. I was at the game on Sunday. If you weren't there, they were rocking like saxophone covers of great songs. It was amazing. It was something that you really need to see, something you really need to experience. Anyway. The Jets win 8-1. And before we get into it, let me tell you about the flagship show of the Game Over Network. It's Hyperdrive Hockey. It is all things hockey across various leagues in multiple countries. Wherever you are or whatever it is, Max, Daphne, and Kev have you covered for all your hockey news with a steady dose of fun and fan engagement. You can find Hyperdrive Hockey on the Game Over Network YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts on the Hyperdrive Hockey page at thegameovernetwork.com. Oh, well, Mark Sanchez, that doesn't seem appropriate. It looks like this won't be a great idea. But anyway, can I do something about that? I don't like that one. There we go. Yeah, he was not very great to this fine. Jeremy Swayman was not very great this fine thing. And you know what? He makes as much money as Connor Hellebuck after sitting out. So there's that. Anyways, the first thing we're going to do in this first period, we're going to get into the kind of nitty gritty of the game, how it all went down. Then we're going to kind of go into more funny details of how this affects the Jets the rest of the season. So the game, we come to this game, we're like, okay, Brad Lambert gets sent back down. Nikita Chibrikov comes back up. They were two players that we thought, might be on the Jets roster to start the season. Neither of them make it, but they're both getting their opportunities now with Nikolai Ehlers out. How would this affect LeBron's legacy? So we have Nikita Chibrikov, and his presence is felt right away. He starts the game, and he draws a penalty right away. Was it a great penalty? Was it even a penalty? That's up to you to decide. And you know what? I'm learning so many things. Look at this. Was the penalty on Chibrikov? Look at this. A penalty. And we have polls. We can see what the people think. Do we think it's a penalty? Yes or no? I think they called it boarding. Let's see what you guys think. All right. We'll let that simmer. Anyway, so he gets kind of knocked over there, and the Jets go on the power play. Nothing really comes from it, but it's nice to see Chibrikov have such a nice little thing to start the game. We got yes, it was a penalty. We're at 100% right now. And as we kind of get into the game, one thing that you were kind of worried about is the Jets seem to be overpassing a little bit, but they were getting some nice offensive zone time, even on that power play. But where the game really started, for me at least, was the Jets' second power play, which was Carlo high sticking Kyle Connor, and Kyle Connor this blood soul patch for the first period. He got sticked, and it led to the 4-minute power play for the Winnipeg Jets. So as that kind of went on, they started the second unit, which was nice. They had Chibrikov on it. Chibrikov was someone who kind of really led the team a bit today. And as they went, they kept it really simple. And one thing that we talked about the last time I was on Game Over Winnipeg is I really want to see the Jets kind of simplify things in the offensive zone. Because when you are taking shots from the point, when you're just taking shots in general, you're making the defense turn. And sometimes when you shoot at the net, you score. So, and that's kind of what happened here as Pionk just rips a shot. It goes off the boards. It hits Nino Niederreiter, goes over to Meskov, and he just taps it in. It's like that little Happy Gilmore, tap-a-roo, puts it into the net, and we're good to go. And I think that just comes down to how the Winnipeg Jets can win some games. They need to cause more chaos when they are out there. And as you kind of see this game kind of unfold, it was, if even from the first period, it was a pretty chippy game. There was points where they'd go to hit a Bruin, and they're just throwing reverse hits. They're whacking them a little bit, and it was kind of going both ways. And it was kind of like, okay, you could kind of see these things going on. And then for the first time since a Saturday, for the first time in a few games, the Winnipeg Jets scored a 5-on-5 goal. There's a part where Gabriel Velarde didn't keep it simple. He was just kind of winding in. They were on like a 3-on-2, and then he turns over the puck. But then what happens is he gets it back, whacks it over to Kyle Connor, makes a beautiful saucer pass to Mark Scheifele, bang, in the net, makes it 2-0. And it's a big part of that. Just, again, creating that chaos. When you lose the puck, all the Boston Bruins seem to fly up out of the zone, get it back right away, make an odd man rush in the zone, a quick little pass to give the Winnipeg Jets the 2-0 lead. And that, again, just creating that chaos in the offensive zone, a huge part of this game. So as we kind of go into the second period for the Winnipeg Jets, we have Nino Niederreiter getting a penalty, and he gets a slash. And David Pastrnak in this game, he missed like how many power plays in the how many like shots in the power play in that first little bit. It was one of those things where you're watching, you're like, okay, you can't let that happen if you want to continue having success. And then as they kind of got into that power play, you have Logan Stanley, who's in the defensive zone covering Pastrnak, and Logan Stanley's stick gets lifted. Logan Stanley hits himself in the face. It was like the could have had a V8. And then the Boston bench was furious. They were not having a great time. Just one of those things where the player actually hit himself in the face, but hockey's a fast game. What are you going to do? That's going to happen, even to the Boston Bruins. And what happens on this ensuing power play is really nice, because Mark Scheifele, he comes into the zone, makes a quick zone entry, tries to pass across, hits it to Zacha. It goes up in the air, comes down. Josh Morrissey takes the puck away from him, and we create some more chaos. We're having a great time by putting these Boston Bruins back on their heels. And so he cuts in. Gabriel Velarde rushes to the net, which draws two defensemen toward him. Josh Morrissey is able to make a backdoor pass. Boom, in the net. Easy squeezy. And the Jets are up 3-1. And then as they kind of kept on going through the period, another penalty. This game was really won and lost on the ensuing power plays, the penalty kills. And you could really see that with how the Winnipeg Jets or Boston Bruins would gain and lose momentum coming out of power plays pretty much based off of goals. You could really see once the Jets scored in the first period, they were kind of gaining momentum, and the Boston Bruins gained a lot of momentum and were playing really well after the goal they scored here. So after Pionk slashes Brad Marchand, it was the Winnipeg Jets were back on the penalty kill, and the Boston Bruins, they had some nice puck movement, moving it around. And one thing you kind of noticed about the way the Winnipeg Jets were killing penalties is they had two guys in front of the net. They weren't really challenging Charlie McAvoy, and because they weren't really expecting a shot. And what I saw is I really think they didn't want that winger to winger pass, the guys on the half wall. So they were kind of letting it go to Charlie McAvoy before it would come back to Charlie McAvoy, just so that it's not that cross ice one-timer opportunity. Penalty, who cares? After such a crazy score, no excuses are good. The Bruins do have great players, but they're no clear style of playing. They can't rely solely on individualities. Yeah, Rodolfo. Oh my gosh, yeah, from when we were on Game Over Toronto. Hey, I'm sorry, I'm gonna mess up this pronunciation a few times. Rodolfo. Yeah, penalty, who cares? After such a crazy score. Yeah, greetings by a Leafs fan from Chile. I remember this. Yes, I remember you from Game Over Toronto. Sorry, my dog is going to keep barking unless I let him in here. All right. So, okay. So, yeah, greetings from Lisa. Yeah, I remember you, Rudolfo. I'm gonna need to say that a couple more times before as we kind of continue. Yeah, but the Boston Bruins, it really felt like on that power play they were having to make those two passes instead of one, and it wasn't kind of working out for them until it did. And there's a few whiffs from David Pastrnak until it just worked. And then as we kind of went on, the Bruins scored that goal, and they started putting on more pressure. They kind of really started going, hey, get out here. They're really putting stuff until the third period. And then in the third period, things really turned around for the Winnipeg Jets in. Yeah, JB. Yeah, that's my boy Five. JB was in here. JB would be a rat and sitting at the door the whole time if we don't let him in. So then Zadorov coming into the third period, he gives a pass up to Brad Marchand. Brad Marchand tries to chip it to the middle. Must have been a set breakout play. Mark Scheifele intercepts it. And what happens next is Mark Scheifele just peels down the side, gives it to Kyle Connor, takes a hit from Zadorov, and then what happens next is they put it in the net, which is a great thing to see. It's nice to see those things get rewarded. And then we have 100% for was it a penalty on Chibrikov? 100% to 0%. So Chibrikov, he drew one that was well worth it. And what I really liked about the goal by Kyle Connor is that when Mark Scheifele gets rocked, he immediately goes after Zadorov, showing that real resiliency from the Winnipeg Jets there. And then it just kept on going. There was another goal by Gabe Vilardi, and this one's really Kyle Connor's doing. He gains the zone, crosses the blue line, gives the puck to Gabriel Vilardi, and then what he does is he just attacks the Bruins defenseman. And what that does is that really pushes him back, gives Gabe Vilardi a completely uncontested shot, and it goes right in the net. So the Jets are just really pouring it onto the Boston Bruins at this point. And then another thing that kind of ends the game, more penalties from these guys. Charlie McAvoy gets a high hit on Perfetti, which puts the Winnipeg Jets back on the power play. And the Winnipeg Jets were really finding themselves on the power play today. On this one, Nikita Chibrikov gets his first NHL assist, scored last year in his only game against Vancouver, comes and gets the assist today. And he gets it just as simple, giving it to Neil Pionk at the point, takes a slap shot and gets it tipped by Iafallo before it goes into the net. And from there, the Boston Bruins are really not a fan of that. And then we get into the fights. And the fights were kind of sorted into the good, the bad, and the ugly. We got to start with the ugly first. And that is David Gustafsson. Kind of just gets like sucker punched, but not sucker punch implied it's dirty. But it's a one punch fight for David Gustafsson. Trent Frederick, a completely different weight class, just kind of takes him and hits him. And then that kind of ended David Gustafsson's night. And it was really just those two guys, David Gustafsson, in the next fight, which is the one I wasn't too big of a fan of, the Logan Stanley fight, where it's like these are two guys trying to stay in the lineup, trying to do whatever they can and defending each other here. And Logan Stanley, he fights Kostelik, and just really good brawl, really good fight. If you're not a fan of fighting, not a fan of fighting, that was just entertaining one for me. And then on the ensuing face-off, you have Zadorov and Lowry, the first stage fight of Adam Lowry's kind of year here. And they go at it. Another pretty good one. That one didn't last as long, but just another fight showing that the Boston Bruins were not having much of it, but the Winnipeg Jets were just kind of controlling the game. And from there, that was kind of the end of the game until you have Mason Appleton scoring from behind the goal line right in the Rockstar zone, just kind of hitting it off the goalies back there. Love to see it. And then Nikita Chibrikov, the greatest goal scorer in NHL history, 2 goals in 2 games as he gets a shot from the kind of slot there. Just a turnover by Peak, and he just rips a shot home. Alex Ovechkin better be watching his back. And that was it. Just like an 8-1 victory for the... My dog's going crazy again. We're closing the door here. Okay, so we have... so as we get into the second period here, let me tell you about LaRouque. And because the Game Over Network is an independent production focused on community, inclusion, and quality people. If you're interested in supporting the Game Over Network, we have crowdfunding options available. In the description of this episode, you'll find a link to our Patreon page. And we're also working on a page through LaRouque, which is a crowdfunding platform for companies originating in Quebec. For LaRouque, we're aiming to aim $15,000, and if we hit that goal, we'll gain access to government grants that will allow us to employ more people. And, if you want to tell us what kind of prizes you would like to see for the LaRouque page, please let us know on Twitter, Instagram, or our Discord server. Like these mugs. Look at this mug. It's amazing. It's beautiful. I will not stop talking about these every episode. All right, so second period, this is where we kind of talk more about um, kind of ongoing things that are going on with the Winnipeg Jets. And one of them was 5-on-5 scoring. They didn't score a 5-on-5 goal on Sunday, the game I was at, and they've been really struggling to score lately. And I believe on the broadcast, Kevin Sawyer said like 18 times that the Jets have scored one goal in 5 of their last 9 games, becoming a real problem. And that really starts at 5-on-5 because you can't control how many power plays you're going to be playing in a game. But every game usually starts 5-on-5 unless something really, really terrible has happened. And a lot of what they were doing to kind of score goals is just converting on turnovers. And so like the Chibrikov one, obviously a turnover, and you have but like that was kind of like end of a game mucky goal. Do we really count that? I mean, it counts on the score sheet, but I wouldn't count that as like something the Winnipeg Jets proactively did. But then you'll have things like the Mark Scheifele goal, or the Gabriel Velarde goal. The Mark Scheifele goal from the Gabriel Velarde turnover that he forced when he just kind of whacks the puck back after he lost it and kind of creates that chaos. And that's really what it was, just finding ways to create chaos, rebounding from when you lose the puck, and just finding ways to score off those mistakes. Because just when you're kind of shooting the puck, making turnovers happen, that's really when you're going to find more consistency in scoring offense. And with that, just kind of creating offense in that way. Another thing was the power play. The Winnipeg Jets power play since Nikolai Ehlers went down, 2 for 15 in that time. And one thing that they have really lost is this just kind of that movement. And they really haven't had those nice classic power play setups lately where they are entering the zone, setting up, and kind of moving the puck around for as long as they can, making nice plays. And that was more what the Boston Bruins were able to do tonight. But the Winnipeg Jets kind of made their bed with making just nice, simple plays and just shooting the puck, getting tips, doing those little murky things that just are a little easier to do when you have the man advantage. And it didn't come through the skill of having like those top end guys. It was just more of those nice gritty efforts, those nice tips, those nice little plays you get just from good positioning and good practice and doing the real simple things. And then with the Mark Scheifele power play goal, that was just a beautiful play. They almost lost it based on the interception by Pavel Zacha, but it was just a nice play and moving and creating chaos, attacking defenders just so that they're forced to take you. Just really nice stuff coming from the Winnipeg Jets stuff for guys. By the way, if you are here, please, in the description, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Just it's free and easy, and it just helps the algorithm, gets us boosted up so that other people can see us, other people can watch us. And then some other things too. So just attacking players, attacking defenders, creating openings in that way. It was something that was very consistent and very nice to see all night. And then with let's save that actually. Let's move on to Nikita Chibrikov. So Nikita Chibrikov, it was his first NHL game. How did he do? Let me know in the comments. Comments away. How do you think Nikita Chibrikov did this fine Tuesday evening? And you know what? If you are someone who is watching, maybe not right now, but maybe a little later, maybe you're watching this tomorrow, maybe Wednesday, let us know, comments away, and I will start the show or have that be included in the show on Thursday. I'm doing the game on Thursday as well. So with that, Nikita Chibrikov, with his game time, I thought he played really solid. One thing I really like about Nikita Chibrikov, and if we're just comparing him to Brad Lambert, is Nikita Chibrikov is a really solid player. And one thing you'll get more from him as opposed to Brad Lambert is just it seems like he has a lot more just pro, how we want to say this, just pro tendencies. When he goes into a hit, he leads with his stick to get stick on puck. He's a little bit more aware of like the paths he takes. It's a little less chaotic. It's a little more just kind of intentional in the things he does. And he's got that, and he's not the tallest guy, but he's got that really wide frame, which kind of makes you look at him and say like, okay, he might not have the ceiling that a guy like Brad Lambert has, but he definitely has probably a higher floor. Like I could see Nikita Chibrikov at the very worst playing like 200 games, like definitely get his pension. And then my boy Fife says, do you think Chibrikov should stay with the Jets? I definitely do. I just don't think there's any downside to it. And I think he's the type of guy, just the way he plays and how solid he is. And with that little offensive upside he has, I mean, he scored a goal in every game, definitely has the upside. I think he's the type of guy like an Alex Iafallo or Nino Niederreiter where he can be up or down the lineup. I don't think there are bad things about anything he does. I think he's solid defensively in the few times I've seen him. I was at one of the Jets preseason games this year when he's really trying to make the team. And I know that's not like the same thing as an actual NHL game, but he's just so solid and so intentional in all the things that he does. Those details in his game are really impeccable and really nice to see from a guy who is so young. And then with him, like the goal scoring, I don't think he's going to score a goal in every game. It'd be really nice, just to have a player where every single game he comes out and you're already up 1-0 because Nikita Chibrikov's in your lineup, but not even Alex Ovechkin scores every game. And I think with a guy, with a guy who's as solid he is, like in the finer details of his game, I think you get him on some penalty killing and he can become a really nice Winnipeg Jet for a really long time. I almost think he's like maybe a less physical but a more upside version of Morgan Barron, just to a guy who's just really smart with his stick, really smart with his play, and can really make a difference if given the opportunity. I don't think it also needs to be a him or Brad Lambert thing. I think they both have a spot on this team if they kind of want to move guys around. Maybe David Gustafsson, I don't know what his injury status is. Maybe they just took him out. He was just taken out of the game because the game was over. But you got to think that if he's injured, they might call Brad Lambert up and just kind of play with more line combinations. Because one thing they haven't done this season, if they struggle to score again on Thursday, they might want to start playing with some more line combinations, because that really seems to be the one thing they haven't done all season. One thing that kind of frustrated with me about Nikita Chibrikov's game tonight, and this was not a him thing, there was a tendency to, with Brad Lambert, when the Winnipeg Jets got a lead or they were in the third period, they would flip Iafallo to the second line and then put the young player back on the fourth line. And I think, when they were in that slide, when they were in that slump and they were trying to get the win with Brad Lambert's first game, totally makes sense. I understand that. But if we're actually going to try and develop players here in Winnipeg, you got to be giving these younger players the minutes, because I don't think there's any upside or any downside. Yeah, that's the same thing. I don't think there's any downside to just letting them play a shift when you're up 2-0 in the first period. Like, I don't think Alex Iafallo is going to, if you trust Chibrikov to play on the second line, let him play on the second line, especially in that first period. And I kind of understand the third period thing, but this has been a Jets tendency for a long time. They would do things like, okay, we have a guy like Kyle Connor when he's younger, Ehlers, Laine, and you have these guys who you trust enough to play on the first line, but then when the going gets tough, you're in the third period and you scale back their ice time. But when you get to the playoffs, and if you're in a overtime period, don't you want to develop the trust in these guys? Don't you want to be able to throw them out there? Because if you think they're game breakers, let them break the game. And I know, and Nikita Chibrikov he might not be the most high upside guy, but he's also a guy you should be able to put out there, especially with like how well-rounded his game is at such a young age. And I think with him, you kind of notice things with the way the Winnipeg Jets develop players. The last player I'd say the Winnipeg Jets really developed was Dylan Samberg. And Dylan Samberg, he's even just becoming a more prominent player in this lineup this year. Like, people develop fourth liners, bottom pairing defensemen all the time. But the last time the Winnipeg Jets developed a top 9 player or a bottom or a top 4 defenseman, it's Dylan Samberg. Dylan Samberg is 25. He is a year younger than me. And you got to think, like, that's not a young NHL player at this point. And that was a 2017 draft. So we're almost at 7 years since they've developed a top 4 defenseman or top 9 forward. And you got to think that with the Winnipeg Jets lineup getting older, their most important players are pretty much all in their UFA years. They got to find ways to get these guys in the lineup and get these guys develop, so that when the Hellebucks, when the Scheifeleys are out of here, we have kind of the next generation to take over. Otherwise, it might be some very dark days in the future, kind of more similar to when the Jets first got here in the 11-12 season. And with that, I think we'll kind of flip over to the third period. And before we get there, let's talk about Game On Winnipeg, because Game Over has you covered after the game. Game On has you covered before the game. Game On is about a 10-minute show that kind of covers the NHL, and that's published through Monday through Friday. There is a Game On Winnipeg show coming, and that is going to be more specific to the Jets. But for right now, I believe we just have a Game On the Game Over Network. It's a nice 10-minute show that really just covers and encapsulates everything that's going on. It's a nice little, you're on your 15-minute break at work. Why don't you throw on Game On of the Game Over Network to get you caught up on everything? Here in Winnipeg, we had former Winnipeg Jet Jacob Trouba come in, get traded. What's going on with that? What's the difference between a no trade and a no move? Well, they can tell you on the Game On show over here on the Game Over Network. All right, with that being said, let's go to the third period. The third period is where I get to talk about whatever I want to talk about. And I want to talk about Mark Scheifele. Mark Scheifele had himself a game today. Scored 2 goals, got an assist. I kind of lost track of his points as the game kind of unfolded, got a little more crazy, got a little more physical. But this is a guy who came into this year with on the fringe of Team Canada, and he didn't make it, which is pretty unfortunate. It kind of sucks definitely sucks for him. A guy who throughout his prime, they didn't go to the Olympics. They did the World Cup of Hockey, which he wasn't even eligible for because he was 23. He was on the 23 and under team, and it must have been fun for him to be playing on McDavid's wing at the time. That team was such a blast. We should talk about that one day. But then he just wasn't even eligible. He wouldn't have made it, but still. The 2018 Olympics, they didn't go. The 2022 Olympics, they didn't go. And now they are in a spot where they're playing best on best again. And with that, you got to think that he was pretty psyched at the opportunity. And he was playing through injuries. He was going through this stuff this season where he couldn't take a face off, but he was still trying. He was still trying to be resilient and get through to make. And I think it was speculated that he was kind of driving through those things to try and make Team Canada. And then he didn't make it. And he's also a guy where the Team Canada really likes their guys. Like the guys who go out and play for them. There's a rumor going around that they didn't even call Nick Suzuki to tell him he didn't make the team because he's not a Team Canada guy, because he doesn't go to events. And Mark Scheifele is a guy who, in his youth, especially in his younger days, he was out there. Fife says total message to Don Sweeney. Was Don Sweeney on the Team Canada staff? I don't even remember. I in my head, it's always just like Steve Yzerman, but I don't think he does it anymore. And with Mark Scheifele, he's the guy who finally is able to get the chance. He doesn't make it. And, it really sucks that he's not making it, especially, when you're a Jets fan, you love watching your guys at the World Juniors. You love watching your guys play at the international stage. And it sucks we're not going to be able to watch Mark Scheifele. But from a guy, I was watching him be injured for the first little bit of the season here. Nice rebound game from him today. And you're like, okay, well, it sucks that we won't be able to watch him. We are going to be able to have him be rested a little bit more for the playoffs. Because at the end of the day, are we going to care more if the Team Canada wins this? Maybe you will if you're not a Winnipeg Jets fan, but if we win this made-up tournament by the NHL, or are we more happy if the Winnipeg Jets win the Stanley Cup? And we still get to watch Josh Morrissey. We still get to watch Braden Yeager, who's probably going to be a top 6 player for Team Canada World Junior. Actually, he will be because he was last year. Maybe even the first line center, maybe even the captain after the Team Canada GM traded for him to go to Lethbridge last week. And with guys like Nick Patan, who played on the World Junior team before, Josh Morrissey, Eric Comrie, you have these guys who you really cherish those memories from being on the international team. And I think that's not going to be the same as if the Winnipeg Jets go on another playoff run. Like Jacob Trouba got traded the other day. That got me kind of reminiscing about the 2018 team. I watched the highlights for Game 3 against Nashville. And that's one of those things where you saw him score that game tying goal. And you're like, there's nothing like that. And you really hoping that with Mark Scheifele maybe getting a little bit more rest, you wish Connor Hellebuyck got a little bit more rest, but he probably will be playing like 2 or 3 of the games. They'll get like Ottinger in some of those. And I think Swayman's the other goalie. Might be Demko, because no, it might be probably Swayman because Demko's injured. But hopefully that little rest in the middle of the season makes this kind of tough stretch they were just in worth it, and makes Mark Scheifele kind of be a little bit better this playoffs. Because in the last time the Winnipeg Jets won a deep playoff run in 2018, Mark Scheifele was hurt for a lot of the season, and I believe that like a lot of these players are playing with something. They're not always like the freshest. They're definitely always kind of hurting a little bit. And when you go have one surgery, you're probably not just getting one surgery. You're probably like healing your foot while your wrist gets surgery on. Like there's lots of things going on in these guys' bodies at any given moment. They're professional athletes. And you got to think that like that rest in 2018 when Mark Scheifele was out and Blake Wheeler was the first line center for a bit, and the line was like Connor, Wheeler, and Roslovic for a long stretch of the season. You got to think that that was something that really pushed Mark Scheifele. And that year he like set the record for road goals in a playoff series, and he only played like into 5 games of the third round. So you got to think that rest is something that's super valuable for these guys that they can really kind of attach to and really help these guys push the Winnipeg Jets to a deeper playoff run. And last thing I kind of want to talk about is Logan Stanley. Logan Stanley, he got into another fight tonight, and he's been fighting a lot lately, and you got to think it's because he's kind of fighting for a spot in the lineup, both physically and like metaphorically. And it kind of reminds me, or I really hope it ends up reminding me of Curtis McDermott. And I don't know if you know who Curtis McDermott is, but Curtis McDermott played 58 games for the Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And the thing about Curtis McDermott, he played in 58 games. He did a lot of stuff. He was a defenseman. He fought, he hit, and then as soon as the playoffs rolled around, he didn't play a single game. And now you play 41 games for the Cup winning team, you're on the Stanley Cup. But as soon as they got to the playoffs, they really cut that out. They stopped playing him, and you hope that that's something they kind of have in store for Logan Stanley. And I don't think that's mean to say that this is a very limited player, and this is a guy who we really don't want in the lineup if he's gonna be turning over the puck, taking a bunch of penalties like he kind of is prone to do. And I think one thing with him fighting all the time, like it almost seems like it's something that he's kind of being pushed to do, forced to do, just to kind of justify him being in the lineup. And it's almost not fair to Logan Stanley to have this kind of expectation on him that he's going to be out there fighting all the time. And you really hope for a guy like that, he doesn't wake up in 40 years and have his brain be jumbled, because this is what he had to kind of do to stay in the league from a team that kind of is pushing to keep him around. Anyway, let's go to the overtime period. This is the part of the show where you can ask me any questions you would like. It can be about hockey. It could not be about hockey. It could be about anything you would like. And while we are kind of getting ready to go, you'll see your messages on the screen too. I found out how to put the chat in here. Isn't that wonderful? Look at it. Unless you're listening on the podcast version, then you can't look at it. Then actually go to the YouTube page, like and comment and subscribe, and then also look at it there. But let me tell you about the Game Over Network kind of product line. Look at these. Our merch. What better way to support something you love than by rocking it as clothing or by drinking it out of their mugs? I love the mugs. Game Over's apparel line and mugs have dropped with 3 unique designs, or not 3 unique designs for the mugs, but for the clothing. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, or want to wear your love for goalies proudly with our live or die by the goalie design, or if you just need another coffee to get you through the winter, yes. We have you covered. Designed by Brady Chalice of Game Over Winnipeg. Use the QR code on stream now to look through our apparel store and help us rebuild the local sports media in Canada while repping your community. All right, and let's see if we have any questions for us. I'm going to keep the QR code up here, see if we have any questions. We kind of got nothing going yet, but what else can we say? What other questions can we ask? There we go. We have 4 dots there. Crazy weather here in Winnipeg. Actually, it's not crazy. It's very typical. Lots of snow here. Quite a what would we say, like 6 inches, 8 inches? Very typical. It's one of those things where you're around here in like Halloween and you're like, oh, I remember when I was a kid and my Halloween costume was never what I wanted to be. I was never like Darth Vader. I was Darth Vader, but now less cold because I'm wearing a jacket. Or, sometimes you just throw on the hockey equipment because that's all you can really do because you can't wear your Ninja Turtle costume because you can't wear your jacket over you can't wear your jacket over the shell. So you just can't wear that and you're not allowed to be a Ninja Turtle because um you can't be a Ninja Turtle because the weather won't allow it to. Lucas Trapp says, is Gus okay? I don't know. That was pretty brutal. He got kind of one punch there. I haven't been able to follow up on Twitter or anything just because I was planning the show here and kind of taking notes of stuff. Hopefully he's okay. I could see him not coming back simply because it was the end of the game. But unfortunately, he just couldn't play to the end of it. Dawson Anderson, how's it going? Just found out about the show. Love it. Do you think the Jets need another guy that can answer the bell in these type of games? I do. I think Logan Stanley's just not it. He seems like he is super tall, and that you love it from that aspect. But in terms of guys who are like really physical, Adam Lowry kind of has that covered, and then your other physical players like your Nino Niederreiters, your Neil Pionks are either like too short in Neil Pionk's case, or you're just not that type of guy in Nino Niederreiter's case. You kind of love it because if you're gonna be a guy who's on the fringe, you gotta have a skill, right? And I think a guy like you have Kapari, who's got that speed. But do you really have a guy whose designated role is to go out there and fight? Like for the guys who are out there for the Bruins, the Kastelicks, the Trent Fredericks, and the Zadorovs, you got one Adam Lowry. And I'm not the biggest proponent of fighting, but it's a part of the game, so you kind of need guys there for it. And I wouldn't mind if they kind of got another bottom six player who could answer the bell in that type of way because Appleton's not going to do it. Barron doesn't seem like that type of guy. If Barron turned into that type of guy, that would be lovely. And then IFL also not that guy. And I think when we go back and talk about Curtis McDermott, this doesn't need to be a type of player that needs to be there for the playoffs, but just to get through the regular season, through those really tough days in February where nothing much is going on, you would kind of hope that if you need something to spark you, you can throw this player, whoever it is in the lineup. And you wonder if the Jets keep on going down on defense with injuries. Maybe that's just Tyrell Bauer for a week in February. Because I think that's a guy in the Jets system who can do it. He might not be the best defenseman, might be another Logan Stanley type, but that's another guy who's an option if you need to call someone up for a week just to kind of get through the day there. We got Fife saying Frederick had 38 career fights and Gustafson had 0. Understandable where the Jets' frustration came from. No, 100%. Especially with Scott O'Neill really gave it to Joe Sacco at the end there. And I think that kind of frustration carries over. I don't think Trent Frederick would know that. I don't think he would have his kind of history of David Gustafson well known. But that's the type of thing where you look at it and you're just like, yeah, that's I can't say what I want to say. Some chicken word move from Trent Frederick, especially if he did know kind of David Gustafson's player history. Lucas Trapp says, it's 7 degrees in Kitchener, and I hate it. I wish we had snow right now. Yeah, I'm doing a work placement right now. It's like a remote thing. There's a few people in southern Ontario, and they were complaining that all their snow kind of got melted. And that's kind of brutal for my sake. I kind of love when it snows. I don't like when it's cold. When it's really windy and gusting out there, really stinks. But you really liked when it's very nice outside and you got that almost ankle high level of snow, which is beautiful. All right, and if we kind of got, how is the chat, by the way? That's fun, eh? That's a new little trick we have at Game Over right now. And if that is kind of it, thank you so much for watching. Dawson, it was very nice to see you. Hear from you. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on our channel here. And let us know what you think. If you're not watching live, leave some comments. I will respond to each and every one as I have so far. Thank you for watching. Our next game is on Thursday. The Jets will still be at home, so it'll be around the same time, about 9:45, which is a beautiful time to kind of just, have it on in the background even. So make sure you are checking us out for that time. Anyway, I've been Brendan Labarre. This has been Game Over Winnipeg. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys on Thursday. Where's the button? There it is.